welcome to these messy little film reviews. If you have a chance, please subscribe to this channel and follow my social media, which is all down below. There's a little subscribe button. That would be amazing because I don't make a lot of money from this yet, and I'd like to, because I'm doing the Lord's work reviewing every film I can get my little dirty eyeballs on. Sorry. But yeah, so currently, sorry, pardon the dogs, I'm podcasting from my living room, and now I'm like, oh yeah, this is why I don't do this. But I am going through a bit of a cancer scare right now. I'm getting a colonoscopy because my dad died in February of colon cancer, and as my dad and I were estranged, I was like, oh, I should probably go get my gut checked and make sure that, like, all that is healthy, making sense. So I was like, oh, it makes sense to revisit probably my favorite cancer movie of all the cancer movies. Not that I'm a cancer movie expert, but pretty sure I like this more than My Sister's Keeper. I think My Sister's Keeper was cheesy from parts that I remembered it. And 50/50 is kind of dark humored. For a while, it was on my, I debated if it was going to be on my top 10, and it didn't quite make the cut for it. It's probably in, my top 100. I wouldn't even be surprised to say is, my top 50, but on the rewatch, which is a huge factor into my top 10, is the rewatchability of the movie. So, without further ado, here is 50/50, which I think is one of Joseph Gordon-Levitt's best. And honestly, one of Seth Rogen's best, if we're being real honest. No shade, but yeah, he's best as this kind of character. And he kills it as Pumbaa, but that's for my podcast. So yeah, if you feel so inclined, please subscribe and follow or donate if you would like to, and let's get into it. So 50/50 starts that Joseph Gordon-Levitt has made a drawer for his girlfriend, which is always a big step in a relationship, I think particularly for men who are used to spreading themselves around the place, and then they give a little piece of themselves to a woman, and so it's a big deal, right? And it kind of establishes Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character as he's a nice guy. His friend remarks that he smells fruity. He's had to use his girlfriend's shampoo and stuff. He works in audio production, which is pretty cool, but he's been having some back pain and been a little sweaty. And the doctor kind of just, informs, with chemo, there are some, fertility issues, and that kind of makes Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character go, wait, what? Because doctors, especially this one, doesn't have, the best bedside manner. He also, records into the microphone, which my uncle does a lot, so it was kind of cool to, sometimes you just, see things, and you're like, oh, I think that's what a doctor just do, that's my experience of, this doctor relationship in my life, and then you see it in a movie, and then you're like, oh, it's, validated, and I do think that 50/50 likes to get a little bit more grounded than most cancer movies do. So, Joseph Gordon-Levitt has cancer, devastating. Obviously not Joseph Gordon-Levitt in real life, Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character in this, which I didn't write his name down, but it's fine. It doesn't really matter. It's basically Joseph Gordon-Levitt. It's basically him in 500 Days of Summer. Maybe a little nicer. This guy is maybe a little less angry for the right reasons, I would say. He's angry for the right reasons, where in 500 Days of Summer, he needs to just, calm. I don't know. In 500 Days of Summer, I could say he's angry about, his own misogyny. I also have a 500 Days of Summer review if you want to check it out, but, that character is angered by this trap of misogyny, and this one is more angry about, just grief of death, right? And having an illness and dying. So very similar characters, angry about different things. Glad we've established that. So he's got this rare genetic mutation. He can barely listen when he has a diagnosis, which I really relate to, I haven't been diagnosed with anything super severe as this, but I've been diagnosed with, I guess, disabilities, and it is you get the one thing, they spout information at you, but you're still trying to process, number one, and I thought that was a very beautifully done emotional moment. The survival rate of this cancer is 50%, hence the title, 50/50. So, his girlfriend, who I think is Bryce Dallas Howard, anyway, it's her, Jurassic Park, or what I know her from, which I think is one of her best work, is the social media episode of Black Mirror. But she promises that she's not going to bail on him and that she's going to be here, but they haven't had sex in 3 weeks, and now he's got cancer, and it's not really a a sex moment, I would say. Kind of a depressing moment. Hard to get turned on in the wake of this news, if you will. His friend at first freaks out when he has cancer, Seth Rogen. He's like devastated. But then he's like, oh, you got 50-50? It's not that bad. Because Seth Rogen's character is an optimist, I guess. Glad it wasn't like a death sentence, which I think that there are like some cancers that are, a la my dad's. Although there was like a tiny, I think, survival rate of him, but it was weird. He like knew he was gonna die. Very, very strange. Cancer sucks, you know? And it's interesting like how many people have cancer, and I guess that's maybe now that we like know the science, or I don't really know if we know what's causing it, or if we do know what's causing it and we just won't release it because a lot of businesses, you know, need the cancer-causing materials to thrive because they have to redo their entire structure. But I don't know. Or if it's just something that just naturally happens, like we just sometimes get cancer and that's what's always killed us since like the history of time, or if it's a relatively new thing. I don't know that much about cancer, to be honest. But if you do, I would love to hear some of your thoughts and theories about it in the comments. And if you have any good videos or things to link me to, would love to listen to that, because I should probably not remain ignorant in cancer, especially that it's already affected my life. So then the mom is the producer from Smash. I always like love her. I think she's just darling. She's a Nepo baby though, but no shade, you know. If you're a Nepo baby that does good work, why not, you know? But his mom wants to like move in with him and like help take care of him, and his dad also has Alzheimer's, which is like such a very interesting perspective to think like, you know, like you already have somebody who's sick in the family who needs a lot of care, and then now like it's your turn. And I also think sometimes, and I've seen it in some like relationships that I dated, it's like when one parental figure has an illness, it's like then the child gets it, and it's very strange. It's even like kind of happening, you know, like my dad died, and now there's like this whole, I've had a whole health journey this year as well. Like it's just seems to be like something that happens. So the mom is like not that impressed with the girlfriend. I think the girlfriend does art and she's just, you know, not that into it. She wants to like call his landlord because the paint is peeling, which is, you know, just kind of a funny thing where like, I don't really know if I've had this, because usually my family focuses on the bad thing, and like it's really hard to like distract them from anything else. But it seems like most other families don't ever want to talk about the bad thing, which is maybe something I should give my family credit for. And they want to talk about everything else besides the bad thing. Like Joseph Gordon-Levitt's mom, the producer from Smash, wants to talk about the peeling of the paint in the wall and fix that solution, because that's tangible and it's like an easier thing to get done than beating cancer. So his mom is really frustrated at him because he waited a couple of days to tell her, although that would be really hard news. Like if I get a cancer diagnosis at the end of my colonoscopy, having to like tell the news is it's like stuck in my throat. Like I couldn't even think about that, and I've literally created a short about that moment and what that is and what that would feel like. And I still have a hard time envisioning what I would exactly do, but I'm very trying hard to live in the present moment after years of living in the future. So the mom wants to move in, so she make him tea because she read the study that tea reduces cancer by 15%. Good facts. I drink tea every day. I'm actually more of a tea than coffee drinker. If you ever want to like send me something or have good tea recommendations, I'm like a green tea stan because I love a good metabolism. So then he's given this therapist because obviously he got like a terminal diagnosis, and I think that's really good that they give a therapist with news like that. Like, that's so important. And I don't feel like that's often discussed. And I usually don't see that in kid cancer movies, right? Like, you don't see it in most cancer movies where they give you a therapist to talk about your mind and like the morality. And I think it should be normalized when dealing with like a difficult health case to have therapy, because it is very mental. It is like a mind-body hyphenate. Like, it's very, very difficult. So I really, really appreciated that part of the storyline of 50-50. And also cool thing is that it's Anna Kendrick as the therapist, which is very funny because I don't know that I would cast her as a therapist, but she brings something interesting to this therapist role. So this therapist is 24, which is younger than Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, which is also very interesting because he kind of gets to his like 500 Days of Summer character where he's like, oh, well, you're younger than me. Like, what are you going to know about life and stuff? And it is sad how much we like underestimate the youth. But I would also say like a woman at 24 maybe doesn't know everything, but knows a little bit and is definitely like studied. So she's working on her doctorate and she's training at the hospital. And to be fair, Joseph Gordon-Levitt is only the third patient and he's kind of sad about this stuff. It's so funny though, because like if I had gotten Anna Kendrick as a patient in his thing, like I wouldn't have flipped out about like demanding the best healthcare. Like it's such like a cocky thing that men have that I just don't, like, I just would have accepted. I would have been like, oh, thank God, a therapist, right? There's a mental health shortage, like, but Joseph Gordon's character it's not how he's living, you know? It's just not him. So they do relaxation, and he says that, you know, he's feeling fine, but Anna Kendrick thinks that, you know, like, are you numb? Are you doing that for, like, survival? He needs to think about that, so he gets a dog that he names Skeletor. This dog is so awesome. I think about this dog often. He's like a little greyhound. He was an old retired race dog. And it's for him to like help the healing process. And he was a shelter dog. And because he was bulky, he was going to get euthanized. So, you know, they're saving each other. He was also on the brink of death. They have a lot in common, you know? So Seth Rogen throws a cancer party for Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I hope my friends will only do the same for me, you know, were that to happen, hopefully not. And there's just like, everybody's asking him awful questions. Like, it's just kind of a dead of a party for him. They're asking like, they'll say things like, oh, my uncle had what you had, and, you know, trying to reach for a connection, but it's just like awkward and a tedious conversation that really becomes about like their trauma rather than his trauma, which I think is what he's wanting to talk about, but due to the psychological nature of like being masculine and feeling like he can't share his feelings, he just doesn't, he just listens, and people keep trying to give him like secrets to beating this, and his own boss is like, you know, just take so much time as you need, and you know, you're always so good and productive. And his boss, unfortunately, is nicer than his girlfriend. His girlfriend doesn't want to go wait 4 hours with chemo with him. Kind of a red flag. I also get it. It would be a hard situation to like see someone you love there, but there's more about this girlfriend, but hang in there, you know? And she just kind of says this excuse is like, she doesn't want to wait the 4 hours because she doesn't want to mix the energy of the hospital with the energy of like them and her love. And it also is like, she is taking care of him, and I think as a caretaker, you gotta set boundaries because you have to have time to take care of yourself and somebody else as well. And if as like the true dependent one, like that is your responsibility, and it is what it is. So one of the old man patients there offers him some weed for him to get high. I really do wonder, I read studies that weed helps with cancer, but I know they're trying to do this whole kickback on marijuana thing right now because of the THC and it's making your brain go wavy. And I could maybe see some of that too, although who knows what chemo does to your brain. Love to see that scan too. But terms of like a pain management, and I'd also say as like a spirit lifter, like marijuana is very good. So he gets high and is having a great time in the hospital. The cancer patients joke too that the more syllables your cancer has, the worse that it is, which I thought was pretty clever. Joseph Gordon-Levitt leaves this hospital so high, he's like finger gunning guys in a gurney. You know what I mean? Like just a vibe, just a vibe. And therapy kind of has a breakthrough that he's angry, and Anna Kendrick is like, "That's good, you know, like you're expressing yourself." And she awkwardly pats his shoulder. She just brings something to it. She brings like a little. Like, I think a lot of therapists, they play with this therapist that's super in control, and Anna Kendrick brings this realness that I have seen, and I've experienced this in therapy sessions, where it's like, it is awkward, and it is, like, it's not, you know, I feel like half the time, like, your therapist is just a person just like you know, and I really liked that. Like, I didn't think I was gonna like Anna Kendrick in this role, and I ended up really appreciating what she did, because it's really, like, only Anna Kendrick can bring that sort of, like, bitey, sweet, nervous awkwardness. And she explains that she touched his shoulder because Joseph Gordon-Levitt gets a little bit weirded out by that. And he's like, she's like, I'm touching to build trust. You know, that's, like, what sea otters do. And he's like, yeah, I'm good, thank you. A bit awkward. So then he shaves off his hair with Seth Rogen, which are unfortunately his ball trimming razors, which is sometimes gross to think about. But I mean, I guess like in the factor it doesn't like matter. Like usually they're clean and everything, but it is like, it's like a funny tool to use your friend. Just like an awkward situation. Good, clean, grounded comedy. Love it. And Seth Rogen freaks out that he's shaving his head. He does end up looking like a little bit of a neo-Nazi, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, which is what I'm worried I'm going to look at, because I am thinking of just shaving my head, regardless if I have cancer or not, just to like start over and have the experience and also fit into my wigs better. So Seth Rogen is starting to get suspicious. He thinks that it's weird that his girlfriend doesn't go to the hospital with him, and then there's this one point where she's super late in picking him up. And Seth Rogen is kind of using Joseph Gordon-Levitt to pick up girls. He's also saying, like, you could use your own situation to get girls, you know, because your girlfriend sucks. And his mom is, like, making mac and cheese, but he hasn't really liked mac and cheese since he was 10. And then he ends up going to this gallery, and he sees that his girlfriend is cheating, and Seth Rogen calls her a C-word, C-U-N-T, and he doesn't usually say that, and Bryce Dallas Howard gets so mad that he calls her that. And I think Seth Rogen, like, he did outstep his bounds as the friend character in this, because he shouldn't have called her a C-word. I would say, in her defense, like, that's not his thing. He can't call her a C-word to her face, right? He could maybe say, yeah, to, like, as a friend, like, sometimes you need your friends to say, yeah, your ex was a jerk. Whether or not I think they even fully agree with it sometimes, whether or not that's 100% true, whether or not you've made some mistakes in the relationships too, you always need your friends sometimes to just call out the bullshit, you know? So he calls that girl a whore, and it's true. I mean, like, we kind of knew, I think this was coming, especially obviously on my rewatch. I had forgotten that she had cheated, but you could tell that they lacked chemistry, that there was something off in Bryce Dallas Howard and Joseph Gordon-Levitt's relationship. Seth Rogen just, like, 100% overuses profanity. That's, like, kind of his character and Seth Rogen's thing, so whatever. It wasn't for me. And it is just a very fun scene, though, of having the friend there being more aggressive than Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who is, like, obviously, like, so tired and spent from chemo, reeling from the shock of being cheated on. And then you have this, like, aggressive Seth Rogen just, like, going after this woman, like, 100% stepping over his bounds as a friend. And it's a great scene. And he just, like, hates that girl. He's never really liked her. And he just says that he's just got months of evidence of her, like, sucking. And Joseph Gordon-Levitt is now, like, really feeling it because he doesn't know how to do this. He doesn't know how to, like, get back into the dating scene with cancer. And Seth Rogen's like, listen, you're not a bad guy. Just, like, use your cancer to pick up girls. And Joseph Gordon-Levitt admits that, you know, like, at first he's kind of thinking that maybe he should take her back. But Seth Rogen is like, listen, like, you guys have had problems long before, and you didn't know what to do. Well, Bryce Dallas Howard admits that to Joseph Gordon-Levitt when they're talking about their relationship, that they had problems long before the cancer and that she just didn't really know what to do when he told them, like, she didn't want to abandon. And Joseph Gordon-Levitt is, like, really mad because she definitely had the opportunity to talk about it, and she shouldn't, like, what she was doing was worse, makes him feel worse. She should have been honest about her boundaries and stuff, so he tells her to get out so long. And Seth Rogen also keeps taking her out, and then she's like, okay, whatever, we'll talk tomorrow. But Seth Rogen keeps going after her, and she just breaks at Seth Rogen because, I mean, he was very, very mean to her. It would be hard. It would be hard to not say anything. Even though she is in the wrong, she did last pretty well. And Joseph Gordon-Levitt is all sad that, like, his girlfriend is sucking cock of another man, and then coming home to make him snickerdoodle cookies. Like, he's just very confused, and he gets back out there, tries to pick up girls with his cancer. He jumps too quickly to cancer sometimes in his conversations, but he does meet this girl who designs the Swifter website. I wonder if that was product placement, but their sex is kind of too uncomfortable because, you know, after cancer, he's weak, and he's, like, walking home because now he doesn't really have his ride from his girlfriend anymore as they broke up, and the therapist sees him and like lets him in, but her car is all messy. I love that. I love this aspect of like the therapist like not also having her stuff together and like being awkward, and also she's 24, of course her car is messy. So she drives him home and she talks about like, oh, like, you know, like car wrecks are the 5th cause of death, and she's like a few behind cancer, and she gives him her number to call because she can see he's kind of in a bad place, obviously at a very low. So the girlfriend tries to come back, but they've burned her paintings, they're done. And to make matters also worse, his friend in the cancer ward died, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt just kind of loses it on his therapist, just super mean to poor little Anna Kendrick about how he's going to die. And his mom is turning up the air, trying to not make it cold for him in the house, and she's been going to a support group for cancer. And then it turns out that his cancer isn't responding, and he ends up like, he's not feeling well enough to drive, but he wants to drive, and he's freaking out about not him dying, and he just like has a moment where he loses it and he kicks his like friend out of the car because, you know, the bro code, you can't break down in front of the other bros. That's homo, apparently, but not really. Like, you should be able to have emotional conversations with your friend, and I think it's, like, a very real moment, though, too, is, like, we often don't, I think even regardless of gender, but probably particularly when you're a male, don't want to have emotional, kind of downing conversations with your friend. He's worried that his therapist is going to mess up and ruin his life, and he, like, stalks his girlfriend's ex-boyfriend. He's just in a very bad place. Obviously, he's going through a lot. Not to, like, justify it, but it's almost understandable, right? It is almost understandable. He's an anti-hero we can come around to, not an anti-hero we can't identify with at all. And he ends up realizing that, and this is kind of where it gets gray. I don't know if I like where they went, but it also, like, they did have a connection. He wants Anna Kendrick to, like, be his girlfriend, and he freaks out about, like, his surgery that he has to do. I think he's just doing, like, things at the last minute, right? Like, if you know you're gonna die, even though, like, the course of the matter is, like, you can't have sexual feelings about your therapist, but you're gonna die, so you're like, well, I can do whatever, I'm gonna go for it, right? Like, I'm gonna live like there's no tomorrow. But he ends up surviving. He's super drugged up, but he ends up surviving his surgery. And his therapist, like, comes to see him, and he's, like, peeing, and he's a little loopy. And he freaks out about the scar, but now that he's survived his cancer and he's clean, he goes on to date the therapist, which, well, like, you know, like, I have feelings about this, but we'll allow it. It's only a movie. These people aren't real, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's not going to see her anymore, so it's fine. And, like, you meet people in real life. But, yeah, definitely a great area. But, yeah, that was 50-50. I liked it. Definitely kind of a bro cancer movie in a way, too. But I think the female characters that are in it are interesting. There's a lot of, like, interesting, funny, tense scenes. But, yeah, I really enjoyed it. If you like these film reviews, if you want me to do more film reviews, please comment below. Tell me what you liked, what you didn't like, what I can improve on. Sorry, my voice is still not the best and kind of monotony, I'm sure. I'm still recovering over this, like, huge sickness. But baby's gotta eat. Baby's gotta put money on the table, which means baby's gotta make a YouTube video. But if you would feel so inclined, would love to have some stuff donated, money, anything you got, if you're feeling generous. All of those links are below. And if you can't, following on my social medias helps a lot. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the review, and please let me know what you thought about 50-50 in the comments below. Bye, have a good one.